Thank you. We start now the session 4, Business Opportunities and Market Access. Now we have at the stage here the chairperson of this session, Shri Lakshmi Narayan Goyalji, industrialist from Bharat. Lakshmi Narayan ji is Vice Chairman of SL Group of Industries. He started his career in trading agro-commodities, but he diversified into real estate development. And Shri Goyalji is the chairman of Sun City Projects Limited, which has delivered several of residential and commercial complexes, and chairman Sti Energy. He's also involved in social work. He's a patron of Bharat Lok Shiksha Parishad and actively involved in Ekal Vidyalaya Foundation, which runs over 57,000 schools in rural and tribal areas. We have Shri Raj Bhondeji from Suriname. He's CEO of Seva Network Foundation, an ISO certified Hindu charity to support the enterprise in developing countries with finances and technical assistance. He's also founder and CEO of Seva MFI, well-known microfinance institute in Suriname, providing critical financial assistance to the local agricultural sector. He served in boards of different well-known organizations in the Netherlands, such as Parthos, which is Dutch Confederation of Development Cooperation, and Fonds 1818 as member of investment board. He is president of Hindu Council of the Netherlands and the current president of the Hindu Forum of Europe. Dr. Ashwini Kumar Singh, MP, was first appointed as Minister of Finance of Guyana in 2006 and reappointed for the second term in the office 2011. Prior to his appointment as Minister, Dr. Singh has served in several senior public finance capacities in Guyana Civil Service, including as Director of Budget in the Ministry of Finance and Deputy Auditor General in the Office of the Auditor General. Dr. Singh is the holder of the Doctor of Philosophy degree in Accounting and Finance, awarded by the University of Lancaster in UK. We have Ms. Prasheen Singh, Head Consultant. She leads the team responsible for supporting institutional funds on investment strategy and implementation. She is the best known for translating in clear terms of exceptional grasp of complex investment issues into top-performing solutions for institutional investors. Prasheen has a significant memory bank of fund experience, which allows her to steer funds away from common mistakes as well as pick up on the errors or cost issues. Now I request our first speaker here, Shri Raj Bhondeji, to come at this stage. Thank you. Presentation, please.
Suriname, the country which our ancestors, the earlier Hindu settlers in that country, some 150 years ago, they started to settle there. They used to call the country the land of Sri Ramji. So from the land of Sri Ramji, I bring you a warm namaste. What I'm going to do today is say something about Suriname and tell you why it is such a wonderful place to be, but also why one should consider doing business over there. So just to give you an idea, if you look at the map where Suriname is located, you see it is very strategically located north of Brazil. The Caribbean region is just north of it, northwest. And, well, the country is covered for 90% with tropical rainforest, and as such, it is among the greenest nations in the world. Something about the demography. The population is just about 500,000, some 5 lakh, as you say that in India, which is roughly a small district in India, I presume. But we have another 500,000 living in the diaspora. The literacy rate is 100%. That means they can read and write. Of course, that doesn't mean they do yoga. I think we have to send Swami Ramdevji over there to do some yoga classes. The Indians are the largest ethnic group in the country. That's 28%. They are well settled. And the country is a place where diversity is celebrated. And you will find different ethnic groups and religious groups living side by side. I can tell you that festivals like Holi and Diwali are not only celebrated by everyone in the country, they are also officially public holidays in the country. Holi is a big thing in Suriname. It is celebrated by all ethnic groups. And you can see the photograph in the middle. You see all ethnic groups celebrating Holi. And then you see on your right, or on your left, you see a huge diya, which is now a tradition in our country. A huge diya is placed each year for some 2 weeks in front of the palace of the president. And you can go and put some diya and do your prayer there during Diwali festival. And the person responsible for that initiative is none other than the present Minister of Education, Mr. Adhinji, and he is sitting in the audience. Please stand up, Mr. Adhinji. Now some serious business. Suriname is a thriving economy, as we call it, with a GDP of 5.2 billion. Steady growth of 4.2% per year. We have substantial foreign reserves. Public debt and debt services, fiscal deficits are reasonably under control. Suriname is gateway to CARICOM. And CARICOM is a kind of a union, a European Union kind of union in the Caribbean. The reason I'm mentioning it is that Suriname is part of that region, and we have access to 7 million population. We can export any goods to those countries without any tax problems. It's a single market. The same goes for UNASUR, that is a cooperation among South American nations, and that gives you access to 390 million people. And of course, we have a number of treaties with the European Union. Also interesting is that we have a strong natural base. The land is very fertile, and we have all kinds of minerals in the soil. The water that flows from the land, you can drink right from the river. It's so pure. Well, what are the sectors interesting for business people in India to do in Suriname? Well, I would say three sectors: mining and energy, agriculture and forestry, and construction and manufacturing in general terms. Well, if we look at mining, mining and energy sector, this is, we have huge reserves, proven reserves in our coastal areas. All the big names are over there. No Indian companies still. We have our own company there from the government called Staatsolie, which is a big thing. It is growing very rapidly. And as a matter of fact, we are building a refinery, a new refinery now. Bioenergy will be very, very interesting. Suriname is placing a lot of attention on that. Right now, Suriname is investing in ethanol plant where we are going to produce bioenergy. The plant is already being built. There's gold in the soil. And it makes sense because India is one of the, perhaps India is the major, the biggest importer of gold in the world. And we have two companies, two big companies, giants from America and Canada, investing in Suriname right now. But we don't have Indian players there. And I find it very strange because it makes sense. You can invest in Suriname. Probably you can own your own mine, refine the gold, and bring it here. I think you will make money. You'll save a lot of money also. There are other minerals, non-metals, a lot of opportunity in that sense. Agriculture. In the field of agriculture, we are big in rice production. And well, what I've seen, I travel a lot in Africa. I've seen Indian companies investing in places like Ethiopia, Rwanda. I saw them in Rwanda, in Burundi. They are investing in rice cultivation, huge lands. They buy or they lease, and they plant rice over there. You can have that in Suriname. You can have those lands over there. We are there to assist you in acquiring possibilities. But apart from rice, we are a nation which is doing mechanized rice. So we don't plant with the hand anymore. Everything is being done. For example, the fertilizer spraying is being done by the airplane. The sowing also by airplanes. It's fully mechanized. So we can provide land which can be used to produce food for India or anywhere else. There are a number of other opportunities in the field of agriculture. One of the things one can also consider is the processing of agricultural products. I have just seen in the International Fair of India the other day that you are huge in the processing of food, and you build a lot of equipment here in that sector. That would be interesting to bring over there, or to do some food processing, perhaps. Construction and manufacturing is, in general, a sector which is growing. I can share with you that there is consensus among the political parties in our country that Suriname, that we are going to have a deep sea port in the country at one time. And we are going to build roads to Brazil and roads to connect the two other neighbors, Guyana and French Guyana, more efficiently. So in terms of construction and manufacturing, there are huge potential. I would, if I would be an Indian businessman doing business here in India in these sectors, I would certainly consider getting involved in this large infrastructure projects, because that will be very, very interesting on the long run. So to wrap it up, why would you consider doing business in Suriname as an Indian? Well, it makes sense. That's what I said. It makes sense. You can earn a lot of money, make profit, but it is a geostrategical place also. You have access to all other markets. And then there is a political thing. And this is a little bit critical. I want to elaborate on that a little bit. You know what, in our country, traditionally, all the shops were owned by Indians. And somewhere in the late 80s, the Chinese started to come on board, and they came with 2 banks and start giving small loans to their business people and setting up businesses all over the country. These small loans gradually became bigger loans, and they were very, very accessible, cheap loans, actually. Well, the Indians are moved away from that business. That's a sad thing. And we have lobbied a lot with Indian partners to bring banks over there and to fuel the Indian businesses. Till now, it didn't materialize, so we spoke about banking and investment funds in the mornings, the first session today. I think it's important to think about these things, because once the Chinese have a foothold there, I think they will go into this big infrastructure projects I was talking about, the ports, the road constructions. I think the Indians should not let that go from their hand. And sometimes we get the impression that the Indians are not really listening to these things. And I hope this forum will give us an opportunity to mingle with people who can bring about this important message to policymakers and politicians and business houses. Well, thank you very much. I will be, let me, while you do that, while you do business with Suriname, a note of caution, of course. Suriname is a wonderful place to be. You can do business over there, wonderful people, but there's bureaucracy there. Getting clearance, licenses, all those require patience. So you don't go there with the idea like, I'm coming here, I'm gonna make money and move away. It doesn't work like that. And the second thing is politics. Everything is politics in Suriname. So any large-scale investment, you must know that politicians will get involved in that. But of course, that's pretty much the case everywhere. I would advise investing in a solid local base and move from that, build partnerships, networks, affiliations, etc., and focus on return, steady return on the long run. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajji. Now I request Ms. Prashin Singh.
Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to be amongst so many illustrious speakers, inspiring entrepreneurs, and so many of my fellow Hindu brothers and sisters. Talking about investment and business opportunities in Africa. As a continent made up of 53 countries and home to 14% of the world's population, the limited time I have today will surely not allow me to do justice to the intricacy and uniqueness of this very vast continent. But I certainly will try to give you a bit of a taste for what opportunities do exist in Africa for entrepreneurs as well as investment advisors. As you can see by the screen covers, even The Economist has changed their view from considering Africa the hopeless continent to the rising continent to now the hopeful continent. And if you prefer the more statistics amongst that, Ernst & Young also assessed the perceptions and outlook of Africa by foreign investors. Their study defined the attractiveness of the location as a combination of image, investor confidence, and the perception of the country's ability to provide the most competitive benefits of FDI. As the graphs show at the bottom, I'm sorry the graphs are fairly small, but you can see that in the last 3 years, the attractiveness from a foreign investment point of view for Africa has improved drastically to the extent that 60% of foreign investors believe that Africa is an attractive destination in which to invest. Over the next 3 years, that is perceived to be increasing further to where they expect in the next 3 years, 73% of investors expect that Africa will be an attractive destination for investment. The picture on the left-hand side was quite an eye-opening picture for me when I first saw it. The land mass that Africa contains holds or could hold the majority of the large developed markets and many of the emerging markets, or like the professor said yesterday, in the case of Bharat, re-emerging markets. Importantly, this picture not only shows the vastness of this continent, but from an investor's point of view and an investment perspective, as you would expect, where you have a myriad of countries that either can fit into a continent, the individual ability to invest across those different countries have their own unique opportunities as well as their own unique risks. There certainly is risk, but I think issues like corruption, social political unrest, war, the lack of information, liquidity, talent management, retention, manager quality or skill are all seeming large problems. But as an investment specialist, I know very well that where there is risk, there is certainly opportunity. So let's focus a bit on the opportunities that Africa has to offer. It's a fairly common view that Africa's growth over the past decade has been driven by natural resources, and we are lucky to have a large stores and resources and reserves along those resources. However, they are and will always be an important contributor to the growth of the continent. Resources, though, have contributed less than a third to Africa's growth since 2000. The rest has come from a variety of other sectors, including agriculture, manufacturing, construction, and in particular, services. These growth patterns are reflected in the FDI trends. Ernst & Young's attractiveness survey reveals that the shift has happened over the past decade, and the proportion of total FDI projects, natural resources, has shrunk from an average of 24% in 2003 to 2007 to a mere 5% now in 2013. Looking at some of the other opportunities, what does leapfrogging do? Technology leapfrogging. I'm not sure if you're aware of the M-Pesa system in Africa. It has completely revolutionized banking across the continent. Every man on the street can now get access to cash or money via a very simple cell phone. And when I talk about a cell phone, I'm not referring to the specific smartphones that many of us are fortunate to have access to. It is the very vanilla, very regular, old-type cell phone, very basic, very cheap. There's a growing middle class. There's continuing urbanization. There's increasing consumerism. There's development by fast expanding demand by increasingly wealthier consumers. I heard an interesting story about Forbes magazine. I think, as you know, Oprah Winfrey is fairly well liked and a national treasure in the US, and certainly draws her full of public interest. So when Forbes was looking to do some studies on who are the wealthiest or richest black people, the immediate assumption was, well, in Africa, that dark continent on the other side of the world has no rich people, and so it must be Oprah Winfrey. And so they ran an article with Oprah Winfrey on the front page. Little known to them, Mr. Dangote, the CEO of Dangote Cement based in Africa, was reading through the article in Forbes and looking at the information published, realized that there was a bit of a discrepancy, because in terms of the richest black person that existed, he certainly far outstripped Oprah Winfrey. So to illustrate, at a certain point in time, Oprah Winfrey's wealth was estimated at $2.8 billion US. Mr. Dangote's, $11.8 billion US. I think he has now fallen to the second richest African on the continent, but purely as a result of markets falling post the various crises that has existed in Africa. So again, I think Forbes magazine had to then print a new issue, which was fairly interesting, of the richest African with Mr. Dangote's picture on the next issue. In terms of GDP, Africa is certainly big enough to be significant. At the turn of the century, more than half of the African countries had a GDP of less than $10 billion. This number is halved, while the number of countries with a GDP of over $100 billion US has doubled. Africa as a continent is best approximated by Bharat in terms of GDP as well as the population size. As a continent, it is significantly larger than Russia and Brazil and is expected to grow significantly faster. In terms of the political environment, Africa has moved from a place where only 3 countries had elected governments to a place now where only 3 countries do not have elected governments, particularly when focused on sub-Saharan Africa. In terms of the improvement in the ease of doing business in Africa, while Africa's size, diversity, and fragmented economies make it inherently a complex place to do business, conditions have certainly significantly improved over the last decade. Using the World Bank's business research as one indicator of trends, many African economies have made substantial progress. Focusing only on sub-Saharan Africa, the World Bank's research shows that 45 out of the 46 sub-Saharan economies they track have improved their regulatory environments for doing business since 2005. In fact, among the 50 economies that have made the biggest improvements over that period, the largest share of them are based in Africa. In terms of stock exchanges, and this is my everyday world, you can see that, that across Africa, we have 24 stock exchanges. Many of those are admittedly smaller, but emerging every day and improving every day. Outside the largest stock exchanges, most of the continent's exchanges, given their uniqueness of situation and liquidity and size, do need to be understood very well to invest effectively across the continent in listed markets. The exchanges obviously vary in terms of quality, governance, liquidity, and most importantly, the cost of trading. Most exchanges are still small, and dual listeds, unfortunately, do distort the picture. When looking at the liquidity across the various exchanges, there are reasonable levels of liquidity on the larger exchanges, similar to many of other emerging markets. South Africa and Egypt are, for example, at the same levels of liquidity as the World Economic Federation of Exchanges average in terms of liquidity. Looking at the GDP across the largest economies across Africa, you can see that certainly, as you can see by the GDP indicators, there are a larger variety of industries and sectors that drive the economy across the continent, rather than just resources, as I mentioned earlier. And there are myriad ways on which to access that growth across the continent. So how do you access it? Well, I've spoken about listed markets. Yes, those are limited. Yes, they have unique issues with which you need to deal in terms of it, but certainly tapping into African listed equity can provide a variety of opportunities. Its market cap is up to 15% of the Eurozone. Its liquidity is similar to other emerging markets, those of Bharat, Mexico, Indonesia. Its valuations are in line with other emerging markets, and more recently, cheaper than other emerging markets. Certainly, you can access Africa from abroad, and I spoke to the dual listings. Many of Africa's prestigious companies are listed on a variety of global exchanges, Canada, the UK, and so you are able to get access to them via those. And private equity, which remains one of the most compelling investment opportunities across the continent, has now become a significant place where there are many managers operating across the continent, where the entry yields into these economies are interesting and exciting, and provide a vastness of exposure to the variety of sectors that drive the economies across the countries in this continent. I think as business people here today, there are important things to understand about Africa and how you access it. And like my esteemed colleague mentioned in terms of how you do business in Suriname, there will be specific requirements of doing business across Africa. And not only across Africa as a continent, but as I mentioned, in each unique location or regional area, there certainly will be a different way in which you need to access it and be able to understand what the unique way of doing business in that area would be. So, there's shared value. Pursuing profit with the purpose of achieving shared value, not only for the business person entering the continent, but for the people that live and exist based on that country. There's a collaborative partnership which must exist across business, government, and the various sectors. There's entrepreneurship which has flourished and which must be able to flourish continually in the conditions that exist across the countries. Regional integration, and of course, infrastructure development, without which no country or no continent can continue to grow. And so in conclusion, I think there's general recognition that Africa is growing fast and that it's funded by private equity and listed markets, as well as significant corporate activity and massive, more recently, infrastructure development. Nigeria has been and is expected to continue to be one of the fastest growing parts of global GDP. Africa has more than 20 stock exchanges, and the listed markets have shown significant returns in terms of the opportunities provided to investors. Transaction pricing across the continent is still very reasonable, and in global terms, across both private equity and listed markets, gives you access to a variety of sectors. Finally, we are seeing investors looking to access the African growth story through all of these channels: listed, unlisted, business opportunities, infrastructure, real estate, and corporate activity. And certainly, while there are many challenges, the future for Africa certainly continues to look bright. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you for your attention, and I feel privileged to have been amongst you here and a part of this World Hindu Conference. Namaste to all of you.
Thank you, Prashin ji. Now, Dr. Ashwini Kumar Singh ji, the Minister of Finance, Government of Guyana, could not be here, but he is represented by Shri Ravi Dev ji, as respected as Ashwini Kumar ji. He is a Sangh Chalak of Hindu Samsak Sangh Guyana. He is involved in media. He is a media consultant, works with Guyana Times, Guyana Television, and Guyana Radio. I invite Shri Ravi Dev ji.
Thank you very much. Namaskar, everyone. My predecessor, Raj from Suriname, has made my task much easier to represent Dr. Singh here, because what he has told you about Suriname holds true for Guyana. But before I make that presentation on behalf of Dr. Singh, I want to challenge you, the Hindu businessmen in here from Bharat and from elsewhere. In Guyana, there are over half of the individuals in that country, the population, are of Indian descent, and of that, the majority of them, 45%, are Hindus. We went there in the 19th century. My great-grandfather left Gaya in 1888, and in the 4 or 5 generations since, we have established ourselves there. So between Trinidad in the Caribbean, Guyana, and Suriname in South America, we have about 2 million people of Indian descent, of which over half are Hindus. Now, I want to challenge you in this way, that there have been 3 waves of Hindus historically. The first wave was probably from the year 1000 onwards, and they went east. And that is how our civilization, our Hindu civilization, spread to what we call now Southeast Asia, through Cambodia, Thailand, East Indies. And who were those individuals that spread our civilization? They were business people. They were businessmen, possibly businesswomen, who went east, and they made tremendous profits. But in doing so, they also held themselves out as Hindus, practiced their business as Hindus, did not go out and proselytize, but they changed those people, not by converting them, but by showing them how to be part of a superior culture. The second wave was to countries like Suriname, Fiji, South Africa, and elsewhere in the 19th century. And then, of course, in this last century, from 1965 to the West, to America and in UK. Myself, as a 4th-generation Indian from Guyana, went to the United States and went into business there, into law and what have you. But the point is, what I want to expose you to, that you have a golden opportunity that not many countries, that not many businesses that want to expand, that want to grow, that want to spread have. You have an opportunity to have your cake and eat it too. You have an opportunity to make money, but also to spread this great civilizational ethos that we have called Hindutva. And that is what we should think. We make money just like our first wave to East Asia, but you can also make money and be yourself. Because in these countries in the Caribbean, you have Hindus who are very strong Hindus. We have been able to have, as my brother Raj says, Diwali, and Phagwa Holi are national holidays. The rest of the population celebrate them. We did not have to proselytize, but by our faith and our practice and our mores, we are able to show them that, you know, our civilization also matters. So with business, I want to challenge you, you know, in the text that we took to the Caribbean was the Ramcharitmanas of Baba Tulsidas. And Hanuman Swami, that great devotee of Sri Ram, he had to be reminded, remember this, when he was on his way to Sri Lanka, he had to be reminded by Janwant as to who he was. You are Pavanaputra, you are the son of the wind god. And I want to remind you, you are the sons of those who once took over Southeast Asia, not by the force and not by the sword, but by your business acumen and by being Hindus. So I come now to some basic information, which basically will be a recapitulation of what Raj says, which is that Guyana presents tremendous opportunities. And the first one is, you might not think so, but you have to begin to think strategically. India is going to compete with China. And strategically, your fight in the next century, and you have to think for the next century, will be to secure natural resources, so India can develop. And here again is where Guyana comes in. Take, for example, mining. The Chinese have come to Guyana, and Bosai, which is the largest aluminum producer in the world, they have taken over. Guyana has Guyana and Suriname together have some of the largest bauxite reserves in the world. Guyana has what is called refractory bauxite, which is the bauxite is made into blocks that you make kilns. So if you are to succeed in steel, you need access to refractory bauxite. It's a very high-grade bauxite. Abrasives all use bauxite. There's tremendous opportunities in Guyana for bauxite mining. And all you do, you mine the bauxite, and you calcine it, and then like the Chinese do, they ship it to China, and you make it into aluminum ingots, and you can do it in all your countries. Guyana is wide open. There are huge bauxite reserves that have not been tapped. It is the richest bauxite, and I will put a plug in for Suriname. It's the same ridge which runs through our two countries, the richest in terms of percentage of aluminum oxide in the bauxite, so that's open. Gold. Gold is not just one for jewelry, as you know, in terms of communication technology and what have you. Gold transmits electricity rather most efficiently and doesn't corrode. So that's going to be a use of gold. Guyana produces, is one of the largest producers now. Last year was $1 billion of gold produced. And who are producing the gold? Right now, a new mine from Australia is coming in there. Now here you have individuals in Guyana who are Hindus, who would welcome you. When you go there, you feel you are part of India. And yet the Indian business people do not come. The Chinese are coming. In terms of agriculture, think strategically. India is developing. China has already moved so much of its rural population to urban centers. You will do the same. Who will produce your food? Where is the land for it? Think of food security. Now, this is not any great technological advance. This year, we are producing 620,000 tons of rice, out of which we are such a small population, not even 1 million, we will export 500,000 tons of rice. Guyana has the potential to export, to be the biggest exporter of rice along with Suriname in the world. We have that technology. Do what the Chinese are doing, you businessmen. When China invests, China takes Chinese. China takes Chinese to farm, whether in Africa or in Suriname. I went there and I was appalled last year. I go to vacation in Suriname. Suriname is a small country, 400,000, but there's already 10% of Chinese. Over 40,000 Chinese. They're not just taking over the businesses, the small businesses, they are taking over the country. China is thinking strategically. I challenge you, the businessmen from India. This is not any great, I don't want you to think of things that you don't know, intricacies like stock markets and all that. Fine, that's for the developed countries. You'll make money, but you can make money Just in farming alone, to take these farmers, for example, from Punjab that I hear about, that the land is running out, the water level has dropped, you can't have that. Guyana will welcome them. The Chinese are getting immigrant visas for their people. They're coming into Guyana already. I'm talking of hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland that you can cultivate. The D.Y. Patil Group is the first Indian company that has gone in. I think they've gotten 68,000 hectares of land. There is forestry. Guyana is 83,000 square miles, of which 80%, like Suriname, is forest. Thousands of species that you can manufacture into any conceivable thing, wooden furniture, so much of the kind of wood, value added. This is not any great technology. You don't have to reinvent anything. Just come down with your medium-level technology, and you can make real money because the markets are there. China has at least $5 billion targeted for investment in the region. Latin America is one of your largest growing markets. Brazil is a fast-growing economy, a member of BRICS like India. We, Suriname and Guyana, sits right on top of Brazil. As we speak, the contracts have been signed to connect Brazil with Guyana and Suriname in terms of bridges, in terms of roads. That's a huge market that Indian business people can tap into. Because Brazil, while Brazil is developed, that development is in South Brazil. The northern Brazil, which touches our border, is there on the developed portions. But it has great opportunities for you to get involved in at this early stage. I will tell you this, that you can enter as business people, you can enter into various stages of a business cycle. But when you enter from the ground floor, when you enter as the initial individual in that sector, then you have the opportunity for the largest returns because the competition is so much less. And this is what Guyana offers you. And I want to exhort you to think about it. So in terms of the actual investments, I would like to just talk a little bit from Dr. Singh's presentation that he just sent me some talking points here. We have talked about that there are a tremendous amount of incentives for investors. Guyana has one shop stopping in terms of business. It's called Go Invest, and if you were to go on the web and just hit Go Invest Guyana, you will see all of the factors laid out there in terms of the fiscal incentives, in terms of all the other tax holidays and what have you that you can get to start your business in Guyana. There's accelerated depreciation for plant and machinery. There's double taxation treaties with UK, Canada, and Kuwait, so you can have all of that. In terms of exports, once you add value to it, there's no taxes on your export. There's tax holidays, tremendous amount. Ecotourism is big with the developed north. Guyana and Suriname also has tremendous ecotourism potential that you can go there. But the largest is, I think, you kind of want to come back to it in agriculture and agro-processing. Our climate is very similar to Kerala. All those spices that the Western world now thinks about, basic things like turmeric and those spices that you have, one of the largest growing agricultural product in terms of value added, can grow there. Just think Kerala, and you will know what Guyana and Suriname is all about. The West talks about organic. These countries are untouched. 90% of them have never been touched, so there's no fertilizers there. So you can produce almost anything and market it at double the price as organic, and you are well on your way. You have your Hindu brothers and sisters in Guyana. We have still remained an agricultural people, a rural people. My people were from Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and they have retained their agricultural roots. You have very few countries in that part of the world where you have farmers who are willing to go out there, who still see the earth as Dharti Mata, and we do puja to it, and we respect it, and we plow it, and we are very, very blessed when we reap it. And we want you to share in that. So those herbs and spices that are flooding the world now, you can get it there. Livestock and dairy products. The Brazilians have made a billion-dollar industry by clearing their rainforest and starting to produce livestock and dairy products there. Aquaculture is big, is very huge potential for aquaculture. Tilapia, there's seafood. Now, the biggest thing, I want to basically leave this with you towards the end of my presentation. Again, think strategic. The former president of Guyana, Dr. Bharat Jagdeo, he has pioneered what we call sustainable development, low carbon development strategy. We are the first country in the world to have adopted a low carbon development strategy. We know the world is running out of fossil fuels, and all countries of the world will have to get on to a whole system of thinking, where are you going to get the energy from? Guyana has huge infrastructural programs that can generate energy where you can go into it. For example, hydropower. Guyana is known as the land of many waters. The Brazilians and the Chinese, we have just one small 140 megawatt plant is going up. The Chinese Development Bank is saying they want to fund it. They're going to put in 500 million. The rest will come out of some other banks there for about $800 million. But the point is that they see returns, because even though it's called the China Development Bank, they get a return of over 9%, better than most other regular banking activities. So what you have to lobby your Indian government for, whether you do it privately, but also the Chinese government, they see good business opportunities, they lend the money because they have a guaranteed return, because it's the country that is backing it. There's public-private partnerships in all these infrastructural things. We are encouraging that. The Chinese right now are building a new airport in Guyana. In addition to the hydro plant, they're building a new airport. A small country like Suriname, $5 billion they've committed. Guyana, $5 billion. And they will bring their people there. The Chinese are thinking strategically, again, I say so. You already have your people there. You already have your Hindus there. And yet they are being neglected. So I want to say this, that we are very proud that Narendra Modi ji is now Prime Minister of India. I first met him in 1993. I met him in 1993 when we went to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Vivekanandaji's going to the West, Parliament of Religions in 1893. And we were in Washington, and Modi ji was there. He and I were on the same panel with Rajmata Scindia ji. And I must say, I will always remember this. Ashok Singhal ji pointed him out to me because Ashok ji had come to Guyana. And he said, that is a lion of Sangha. That is a lion. Narendra Modi ji, Narendra Bhai. And we have seen that lion starting to roar today, and we are very proud wherever we are. Narendra Bhai came to Trinidad, the World Hindu Conference in 2000. And again, we spoke about many of the same problems that we are speaking with now. But it was a different time, and it was a different place. He came to Guyana briefly, where I hosted him and took him around. And the first thing he asked me, he says, I want you to show me what has our people done for this country in terms of sacrifice. And I took him to a monument where, as sugar workers, we had fought the British and died and spilled our blood. And there's a monument to these sugar workers who fought because they were being exploited by the British. And he saw this, and he bowed to this monument and said, this now is your Punya Bhumi. Matri Bhumi may be India, but this is your land. And I want to say that unlike Nehru, who said that we of the diaspora are on our own, in his book, Discovery of India, he writes that. You are on your own. You have to do your own struggle. He didn't want to annoy the British or whoever he was thinking about. Narendra Modi ji said, this is your Punya Bhumi, and you have to struggle for it. I ask you, oh Hindus in this hall, to join us, to connect, and to become one. And you're doing it, and you will get your returns. I'm guaranteeing it. We are at the cusp of development. We are on the top of Brazil. You have a huge market. That whole market that we have access to is over $4.5 trillion. We have free trade with them. Because of our underdeveloped state, we have preferred access to the European market. From Guyana, you can ship duty-free to Europe. To America, we have the Caribbean Basin Initiative. With Brazil, there's a host of products you can ship duty-free. And you have the opportunity, if you don't want to come, to partner with local Hindu businessmen. And I was so proud that we will have this directory. We will be putting down our names. I am part of a group that not only owns media, that is in pharmaceuticals, and we can maybe partner. And you have the whole of that how many million people in South America to market. So I close with these remarks that we as a people have to look not only at our own interests, we have to look at our people's, our Hindu interests, because our Hindu interest is our own interest. I thank you and namaskar.
Thank you, Ravi ji. Now I request Lakshmi Narayan ji to please sum up and conclude the session.
नमस्कार। इस सेशन में सबसे पहले दिमाग में ये आया कि हिंदू, जब हम वर्ल्ड हिंदू कांग्रेस को जब स्टार्ट किया स्वामी विज्ञानंद जी ने, आज एटलीस्ट हिंदुस्तान में जब हम बात करते हैं एक दूसरे से, जब जो कोई अनजान आदमी आपसे मिलता है तो हम बोलते हैं, कोई पूछता है भाई आप कौन हो, आपका क्या नाम है, आप, तो हम लोग क्या कहते हैं, मैं फलां लक्ष्मी गोयल हूँ। कोई बोलता है कि मैं यादव हूँ, कोई बोलता है मैं चौधरी हूँ। लेकिन अगर हम दूसरे किसी रिलीजन में बात करते हैं, किसी दूसरे रिलीजन के आदमी से बात करते हैं, तो वो क्या बोलता है, बताइए आप लोग, क्या बोलता है? वो बोलता है कि मैं मुस्लिम हूँ, मैं क्रिश्चियन हूँ, मैं यहूदी हूँ। मुझे ज़्यादा नहीं पता दूसरे कंट्रीज़ में इसको कैसे लिया जाता है, लेकिन एटलीस्ट हिंदुस्तान में इसको इस तरीके से मेरे विचार से लिया जाता है। और वो क्यों लिया जाता है, क्या कारण है इसका? मैं ये बिज़नेस इकोनॉमिक का सेशन है, लेकिन शायद इससे थोड़ा बहुत लिंक करता है, क्योंकि ये वर्ल्ड हिंदू ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, कांग्रेस है। तो क्योंकि जब मुग़लों ने हमारे देश पे राज किया तो सबसे ज़्यादा डिवाइड किसको किया? हिंदुओं को डिवाइड किया। कि ये 85%, उस समय शायद 90% हिंदूज़ होंगे, 95% हिंदूज़ होंगे, लेकिन उन्होंने सोचा कि इनको डिवाइड किया जाए और अलग अलग जातियों में, अलग अलग हिस्सों में हिंदूज़ को डिवाइड कर दिया गया। और फिर उसके बाद ब्रिटिशर्स ने डिवाइड किया। उसके बाद हमारे सो कॉल्ड जब देश आज़ाद हुआ तो यही वोट की राजनीति को लेकर के हमारे पॉलिटिशियंस ने इसको डिवाइड किया, वोटों की राजनीति में बांटा। ये ब्राह्मण है, ये यादव है, ये गुजर है, ये फलां है, फलां है, फलां है। लेकिन विदेशों में जो हमारे हिंदू भाई हैं वो डिवाइड नहीं हुए। वो एक कॉज के लिए गए थे, एक वजह से गए थे, और वो वजह की वजह से वो आपस में, लेकिन दूसरी जातियों के साथ भी उनका व्यवहार जैसे दूसरे हिंदूज़ के साथ है, वैसा ही व्यवहार उनका दूसरे लोगों के साथ रहा। और वो रहना भी एक मायने में आवश्यक था, आवश्यक है। तो मैं सभी हिंदू भाइयों को ये रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कि कोई आपसे पूछे भी आप कौन हो, तो हमें ये कहना चाहिए कि मैं हिंदू हूँ। अब ये वर्ल्ड हिंदू कांग्रेस की आवश्यकता क्यों पड़ी? जरूरत ही जननी है। स्वामी विज्ञानंद जी ने सोचा होगा कि शायद मेरा उनसे डिस्कशन नहीं हुआ, लेकिन सोचा होगा कि जैसे मुस्लिम ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, क्रिश्चियन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, ऐसे ही मुझे एक हिंदू ऑर्गेनाइजेशन खोलनी चाहिए ताकि हिंदुओं में आपस में संपर्क स्थापित हो और यूनाइटेड हों और एक दूसरे के काम आए। हो सकता है ये सोचा हो। दूसरा, विश्व हिंदू परिषद का एक ये ऐसा ही मॉडल था, उसकी वजह से सोचा होगा। लेकिन क्या है, इस सोच के पीछे, चलो सोचा ठीक है, कारण कुछ भी होगा, लेकिन एक क्रिएटिविटी थी, एक क्रिएशन था और एक क्रिएशन है। बिना क्रिएटिविटी के, बिना किसी क्रिएशन के, आप लोग इस सभा में बैठे हैं, कभी कुछ हो सकता है? बताइए, बताओ जीडी जी। बिना कुछ क्रिएशन के कभी कुछ नहीं हो सकता मेरे ख्याल से। बिजनेस क्या है? बिजनेस सिंपल एक क्रिएटिविटी है, एक क्रिएशन है, एक ज़रूरत है, एक आवश्यकता है। उस आवश्यकता को जब दिमाग में आया, एक गुब्बारा बेचने वाला है, एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ, उसने गुब्बारे या कुछ टॉयज साथ में लिए और लेकर के वो ऐसे इलाके में जाएगा जहाँ पर उसकी डिमांड होगी। वो किसी ऑफिस में बेचने के लिए नहीं जाएगा। वो कहाँ जाएगा? जहाँ पर उसको पता है कि यहाँ थिकली पॉपुलेटेड एरिया है और यहाँ पर बच्चे हैं और बच्चे डिमांड करेंगे। तो उसने क्या क्रिएट किया? उसने एक अपना माइंड अप्लाई करके एक क्रिएशन क्रिएट किया और वो लेकर के जा कर के बेच के आया। दैट इज क्रिएशन। इसी तरीके से आज जब हम कोई बिजनेस स्टार्ट करते हैं, एक मैं एसल ग्रुप से बिलोंग करता हूं। मैं इस फैमिली का थोड़ा सा क्रिएशन के बारे में, क्रिएटिविटी के बारे में बताना चाहूँगा। एक लैंड सुभाष चंद्र जी ने मुंबई में ले ली। करीब करीब उसका एरिया होगा 600 एकर्स। दैट वाज इन 1980s अराउंड और 82 अराउंड। मैं लंदन गया, छोटे ब्रदर जोहार साथ में थे। हम ब्लैकपुल चले गए अम्यूज़मेंट पार्क देखने के लिए। वहाँ देखा अम्यूज़मेंट पार्क, बड़ा अच्छा लगा। हमने डिस्कशन किया और कहा यार इसकी फ़ोटोएं खींचनी चाहिए। जो हमने लैंड ली है वहाँ पर अम्यूज़मेंट पार्क बड़े अच्छे तरीके से शायद बन सकता है। एक क्रिएटिविटी दिमाग में आई। वो जब फ़ोटोएं खींच करके और ब्लैकपुल से आकर के और जब भाई साहब से डिस्कशन किया, उन्होंने कहा यस यस वी हैव टू स्टार्ट। और एक वो क्रिएशन जो दिमाग में थी, क्रिएटिविटी दिमाग में थी, उससे वो एसल वर्ड एक हिंदुस्तान में बन गया। ऑफ कोर्स निटी ग्रिटीज, प्रॉब्लम्स, दिस दैट्स, सरकारी प्रॉब्लम्स, टैक्सेशन प्रॉब्लम्स, वो आती रहेंगी, चलती रहेंगी, उससे बाहर निकलते रहेंगे। लेकिन उसके बाद दिमाग में आया कि लोगों ने कहा कि ये बहुत दूर है, बहुत दूर है, इसको कैसे किया जाए। करने के लिए उस समय हिंदुस्तान में सिवाय सरकार का दूरदर्शन चैनल के अलावा और कोई प्राइवेट चैनल नहीं था। वहाँ से फिर दिमाग चेंज हुआ, फिर क्रिएटिविटी आई कि नहीं, वी हैव टू स्टार्ट, लोगों के घरों तक कैसे जाया जाए। जैसे नाथपुरी जी ने कहा कि मैं क्या था और कैसे कहाँ कैसे पहुँचा। इस अकॉर्डिंग टू मी इस ऑल गेम्स ऑफ क्रिएटिविटी, क्रिएशन। एक पेंटर ने पेंटिंग बनाई, हम कहते हैं बहुत अच्छा आर्टिस्ट है, बहुत अच्छा आर्टिस्ट, बहुत बढ़िया पेंटिंग बनाई, लेकिन उसमें भी एक क्रिएटिविटी थी। एक स्कूल में टीचर पढ़ाता है, प्रोफेसर पढ़ाते हैं, जो किताब में लिखा है वो तो बच्चों ने पढ़ लिया, लेकिन अगर उसको एक ऐसे ढंग से पेश नहीं किया तो बच्चों के दिमाग में शायद वो चीज़ नहीं आएगी। तो उसने एक क्रिएटिविटी क्रिएट की उसमें, तब उसके दिमाग में ये सब चीज़ें आई। अब बिज़नेस की बात, ये भी एक, मैं बिज़नेस का एक पहलू आपके सामने रख रहा था। अब जैसे बात हुई सूरीनाम की, गुयाना की, बाकी कंट्रीज़ की, साउथ अफ्रीका की, मैं इस पे आता हूँ। लेकिन हमारे देश में क्या अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हैं, ये अपॉर्चुनिटी कोई बताएगा नहीं हमें, हमें खुद ढूंढनी पड़ेगी, खुद सोचनी पड़ेगी, और उसके अंदर कोई ना कोई अलग अपनी यूएसपी लानी पड़ेगी। अगर हम कोई अपने अलग यूएसपी लाते हैं, आप में से जितने बिजनेसमैन यहाँ पर बैठे हैं या प्रोफेशनल्स बैठे हैं, सब ने अपने अपने समय में अपने उस बिज़नेस को या अपने प्रोफेशनलिज्म को चुनने के लिए बहुत कुछ सोच करके उसके अंदर एंटर किया होगा। हम उसके अंदर कामयाब भी होते हैं और कई दफ़ा कामयाबी नहीं भी मिलती है। जब कामयाबी मिलती है तो हम कहते हैं यस आई हैव डन दिस। अगर कामयाबी नहीं मिलती है तो क्या कहते हैं? हाँ, ईश्वर के अधीन छोड़ देते हैं, प्रभु के अधीन छोड़ देते हैं। हम ये नहीं सोचते कि मैंने इसके अंदर ये क्रिएटिविटी क्रिएट नहीं की, अगर मैं ये क्रिएटिविटी क्रिएट करता तो शायद ऐसा नहीं होता। आप कई शॉप्स पे जाते हैं, देखते हैं एक शॉप्स पे भीड़ लगी हुई है, बराबर में दूसरी शॉप खुली हुई है, वो खाली पड़ी हुई है। उसने कोई कुछ ना कुछ नया, कुछ यूएसपी क्रिएट की होगी। अगर उसने यूएसपी क्रिएट नहीं की होती तो ऐसा शायद नहीं होता। हमारे देश के अंदर जो मेरी अपनी सोच है, कुछ लीडर्स को आपने कल सुना, टीवीज़ और अखबारों में भी सुनते हैं, सरकारें ये कर रही हैं, वो कर रही हैं, वो कर रही हैं। लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से हिंदुस्तान के अंदर अगर एक अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी है तो मेडिकल की अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, क्योंकि देश के अंदर जितनी हॉस्पिटल्स की रिक्वायरमेंट है वो अभी बहुत कम है और वो पूरी नहीं हुई है। प्राइवेट सेक्टर खुल चुका है, कुछ एक 2-3 कंपनियां हिंदुस्तान में आ चुकी हैं और शायद कुछ मोनोपोली बिजनेस बनता जा रहा है। ये एक अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, इस पे हम विचार कर सकते हैं। डिटेल में नहीं जाऊंगा, अगर डिटेल में गया तो समय ज़्यादा लग जाएगा और मेरी वॉच बोलेगी कि योर टाइम्स अप। सेकंड, एजुकेशन, जैसे कल नितिन गडकरी जी ने बोला था, हमारे करीब करीब बहुत से बाहर एजुकेशन लेने के लिए बच्चे जाते हैं और एक ये फैशन भी बन चुका है। उस फैशन का शायद शिकार मैं भी हुआ, लेकिन मैं ये कहूँगा कि एजुकेशन हब, जो कि पहले कभी दलाई लामा जी ने जैसे बोला था कि मैं हिंदू धर्म को या हिंदुओं को अपना बड़ा भाई मानता हूँ या अपना गुरु मानता हूँ, तो एजुकेशन में हिंदुस्तान किस समय कुछ ऐसे समय था कि जो कि हिंदुस्तान में लोग एजुकेशन लेने के लिए आते थे, लेकिन आज हिंदुस्तान के लोग एजुकेशन लेने के लिए बाहर जाते हैं। लेकिन हिंदुस्तान में भी एजुकेशन लेने के लिए बहुत सी कंट्रीज़ के लोग आते हैं, ऐसा भी है, लेकिन यहाँ ये एक अपॉर्चुनिटी मुझे नज़र आती है। 1977 में हिंदुस्तान फूड ग्रेन सरप्लस बना था। आप लोगों ने याद होगा, लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी जब प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया थे, उस समय उन्होंने बोला था कि भाई आप एक समय का खाना छोड़ दीजिए। उस समय फूड क्राइसिस था, लेकिन आज हम 1977 से सरप्लस फूड हमारे पास है। लेकिन सिर्फ क्या सरप्लस है? वीट एंड राइस। लेकिन पल्सेस एंड ऑयल अभी भी स्टिल वी आर इम्पोर्टिंग फ्रॉम अदर कंट्रीज। उसके ऊपर एग्रीकल्चर का आज एक सिस्टम कुछ एक लोगों ने स्टार्ट किया है कि लीज पे एग्रीकल्चर लैंड लेकर के और उसको साइंटिफिक ढंग से उस पे एग्रीकल्चर किया जाए, और जो पल्सेस एंड ऑयल हम इंपोर्ट करते हैं उसके लिए एक बिज़नेस अपॉर्चुनिटी भी हो सकती है, और दूसरा हम अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट पूरी भी कर सकते हैं। देयर इज ए चांस। इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर आप लोग सभी जानते हैं, मैं ज़्यादा नहीं बोलूँगा। वो अगर ये पिछली सरकार ने जो कुछ किया उस पर मैं नहीं बोलना चाहता, लेकिन जो आज की सरकार जो वायदे कर रही हैं, अगर वो वायदे आज की सरकार ने पूरे किए तो हम लोग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में जा सकते हैं। एक सरकार इसके ऊपर और हम लोग बहुत ही ज़्यादा पूरी तरह से ये कार्य करने के लिए उत्साहित हैं। डोमेस्टिक वेस्ट, जो डोमेस्टिक वेस्ट है वो कलेक्ट करके, अभी तक हिंदुस्तान में ठीक तरीके से डोमेस्टिक वेस्ट को कलेक्ट नहीं किया जाता जैसे दूसरी डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज़ में किया जाता है। तो उसको कलेक्ट करके जिसमें सरकार और लोकल बॉडीज़ भी इंटरेस्टेड हैं और आप ऑर्गेनिक फर्टिलाइज़र उसका बना सकते हैं। वो बहुत यूज़फुल है, इसका स्कोप है, ये किया जा सकता है। एक अगेन डेयरी प्रोडक्ट है, डेयरी है, दूध है। दूध का अभी हमारे पास हिंदुस्तान के अंदर, जो कि बाहर के लोग भी इन सभी वेंचर्स में ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं। अभी मिल्क के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा मिलावट है। ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में मिल्क का प्रोडक्शन नहीं होता है, और जब ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में नहीं होता तो, और या हडोकिज्म में होता है, अभी तक कलेक्शन सेंटर बने हुए हैं मिल्क के, लेकिन हम मिल्क प्रोडक्शन, मिल्क फार्मिंग, आज काऊ क्लस्टम है। काऊ क्लस्टम आप लोग जानते होंगे, जो गाय का जो पहले 3 दिन का दूध होता है उसको ड्राई करके नेस्ले कंपनी आज करीब 75,000 रुपीज़ एक केजी सेल करती है, जो कि आप, और ऐसे ही चीज़ है, चीज़ भी विदेशों से आता है जो कि करीब 500-700 रुपये केजी से लेके और 3,000-4,000 रुपये केजी आता है। तो इस पे भी काम सभी लोग कर सकते हैं, देश के और विदेश के। और कम्युनिकेशंस के इक्विपमेंट, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इक्विपमेंट्स, जो कि हमारे पास देश में करीब 60,000 करोड़ की इंपोर्ट है, जो कि आज हिंदुस्तान में बनाए जा सकते हैं। हमारे पास स्किल है, सब कुछ है। राज मोंडे जी ने कहा, बड़ा अच्छा लगा, झारखंड में 100 स्कूल बना रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छी बात है। थैंक्स टू देम कि इन्होंने सूरीनाम से में बैठे हुए ये चीज़ सोची और ऐसा कर रहे हैं। होली दिवाली मनाते हैं, और जैसा इन्होंने वक्तव्य दिया उसके मुताबिक हम वहाँ पर जा कर के बिज़नेस की अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ देख सकते हैं। इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। प्राचीन सिंह ने कहा, साउथ अफ्रीका के लिए, साउथ अफ्रीका में इन्होंने आज आपसे निवेदन किया है, लेकिन मैं आज से 1.5 साल पूर्व साउथ अफ्रीका में एक वेंचर स्टार्ट कर चुका हूँ। एक न्यूज़ चैनल है वहाँ पर, उसका नाम ANN 7 के नाम से है, जो कि प्रशीन जी को जब हमने बताया तो वो कहते, यस आई नो दैट, oh this belongs to you. I have told, yes, I am one of the shareholder. So अफ्रीकन कंट्रीज़ में और स्पेशली साउथ अफ्रीका में बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटी है, लेकिन वहाँ पर कुछ एक प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, लाइक जब तक आप प्रॉपर अप्रोच नहीं करेंगे, सही जगह नहीं जाएंगे, और कुछ करप्शन के इश्यूज़ भी हैं, वो जब तक आप डील नहीं करेंगे तब तक मुश्किल रहता है। अदरवाइज़ बहुत माइनिंग, दुनिया भर की माइनिंग है वहाँ पर, अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ बहुत हैं, लेकिन अगेन हमारे को देख करके और डील करके ऐसा काम करना पड़ेगा। ऐसा मेरा अनुभव रहा है, और जितना मैं साउथ अफ्रीका को जानता हूँ उसके मुताबिक आपको बता रहा हूँ। लेकिन इट्स ए ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी, नो डाउट अबाउट इट। रवि देव जी ने बहुत अच्छा गुयाना के बारे में बताया। और सबसे बड़ी बात इन्होंने आपने क्या बोली, आज से करीब 15 साल से हमारे देश के लोग, हमारे बिजनेसमैन, जब मैं कभी विदेश में जाता था तो मुझे बिजनेस कम्युनिटी के लोग मिलते थे फ्लाइट में, नमस्ते नमस्ते हुई, पहचाना जी आपने? भाई मैं आपको पहचान गया, आपको तो जानता हूँ, आपको नहीं जानता हूँ। कहाँ जा रहे हो? मैं फ़लाँ कंट्री में जा रहा हूँ। क्या करोगे, किस लिए जा रहे हो? कि जी अब हिंदुस्तान में कुछ रखा नहीं है इसलिए बाहर जा रहे हैं काम करने के लिए, कोई अपॉर्चुनिटी देखने के लिए। पिछले 15 साल से हमारे हिंदू भाई विदेशों में बिज़नेस की अपॉर्चुनिटी देख करके इधर उधर बहुत गए हैं, जिनको जहाँ पर जो अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली, जहाँ जो जानकारी मिली, उसके मुताबिक उन्होंने अपने क्रिएशन से कार्य किया और कर रहे हैं। और लेकिन आपने रवि देव जी ने चाइना के बारे में जिक्र किया। चाइना गवर्नमेंट उनको प्रोत्साहन देती है कि भाई आप जाइए विदेश में, ये काम जो आप काम कर रहे हैं काम करिए, और हमारे से जो फैसिलिटी हेल्प चाहिए आप ले लीजिए। और वो उनको सपोर्ट करती है। उसकी वजह से नॉट ओनली इन सूरीनाम, गुयाना, साउथ अफ्रीका, जहाँ जहाँ बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ उनको मिल रही है वहाँ पर वो जा रहे हैं, लेकिन चाइनीज़ गवर्नमेंट उनके साथ है। हमारे साथ क्या है? हमारी अपनी सोच है। उस सोच को लेकर के जाकर के हमें बिजनेस करना है। मैं इतना कहते हुए अपना आपका समय मैंने बहुत लिया। बहुत बहुत नमस्कार, धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद गोयल जी।
My name is B.N. Banod from London. I heard Ravi ji yesterday also and today also about Guyana, and very tempting proposition that we should go there and invest. But yesterday you told us that in Guyana, Indian people of Indian origin have been pushed out and many have gone to the States. So how about Indians always think of safety and security in overseas countries? Thank you.
I think it's a am I on?
It's okay. It's on. It's
Okay, yeah. It's a very good question. And this is part of the problem of India. I'm talking of the government of India never looking towards its overseas people of Indian descent as strategic resources. In all these countries, in Fiji, Guyana, and Trinidad, and in Suriname, the Indians came out of their agricultural status by sheer hard work. They lifted themselves up very quickly. And in any society, there's something called a social comparison process. The other groups in the society will compare themselves. And what they ask of the Indian, everywhere we go, whether in Africa or wherever, how dare you move up so fast? Therefore, as I said yesterday, in political participation, the Indian has to also, this is not your forum, but we must look at business, at politics. In every country you go, you must be concerned with politics, because what we saw, and in fact I was still in the United States in 1989 when that first GOPIO was formed. I was one of the founding members, and I also co-chaired the panel on political participation. We did well, to come back to your question, and what your opponents will do, because they control the armed forces, because they control the government, they don't necessarily have to create violence on you. They squeeze you out. So what has happened, half of our population is now in New York and in Toronto. The Fijians are in Vancouver and Australia. I'm not so sure whether South African they've left yet, but they will, because we are seen as interlopers. However, we live in a new age in terms of this democratic order in these places. And I think now there is this whole stronger feeling that you can stick there. And I do believe that with the new resurgent India, with Narendra Bhai at the helm, and this new assertiveness as to its role in terms of the protection of the Indians, I think it's a whole new paradigm. I would like to say, and I would like to thank him, Narendra Bhai last week announced a $73 million loan to the Fiji sugar industry. It's the first time that India has done something concrete for that diaspora. First time. Because that's a signal that we are not going to be pushed out. We will not allow that to fail. In my country, the sugar industry has collapsed. It's collapsed. And the Indians were the backbone. And nothing. But the point I want to make is that it is a different time. But the two are related. If we are strong economically, but I also say this, we must be involved in politics because we have to control those people who can take away from you. That is the government of Guyana right now is controlled by the Party of Indian, but the president has had to prorogue parliament because of our opposition, and that's why the finance minister couldn't come. So I want to say this to you, it's not an extreme situation, but we have to be alert, as my brother and sister said, of the political nuances in these societies, but I want to tell you it's not in any way precarious.
Srinivas, Universal Consciousness Trust. It's just a rider I would like to throw onto the podium and also the knowledgeable people around here. What exactly are we to do, India has to do, to really become the superpower? It's open for everyone.
Thank you. Any other question? Mike, please there.
Namaste, sir, and my name is Jayesh Jayakumar. I am from Kerala. So, I want to ask you a personal question, because I am running some educational institutions. So, we are running petroleum engineering, mining engineering, and agriculture engineering. And Raj sir was mentioning regarding mining opportunities. So, what kind of support you can offer for our students? BTech, petroleum, mining, and geology I am running, BSc geology and MSc geology.
Any other question? One more last question if possible. Yes, please. Naresh ji, mic please.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Oberoi. I am from ISKCON. My question is to the distinguished speakers here. Our topic is thriving economy, prospering society. As part of the Hindu community, as part of the World Hindu Economic Forum, we all do believe with high values that wherever there is cows getting protection, part of the integral society, there is full prosperity and economic balance. Today, we have in so many countries cow slaughters, and a very big misfortune, the biggest Indian exporter of cow beef meat is the Hindu. So we also have a Hindu scripture. They say if you give cow protection, naturally all the demigods, 33 crore Devi Devta, they also give you blessings. Also Lord Krishna. So we as part of the World Hindu Economic Forum, what can we do to make the cows feel protected and to stop cow slaughters? That's my humble question to all of you.
Thank you, Ji. Now,
would somebody also answer the question? My point is that, you know.
Sorry.
Yeah, to Mr. Raj Bhonte ji, please. Thank you. About cow protection, cow raksha.
Question from who, sorry? Question to who?
Mr. Raj.
Raj.
It's all right. Is it on?
Yes.
All right, it's on. Listen, you know, cow protection, you want to protect the cow, you start saying to Hindus and Indians in general, stop eating meat. everything will stop. No meat, no eggs, no fish, everything will stop. May I also answer one of the questions over there? Someone asked what India should do to become a superpower. I would say you are on the right track, but invest, look for opportunity, make in India, that's a good thing, buy Indian goods, but also think beyond India. As my colleague Raviji said, think about us, people who are settled, in the Caribbean. Think about us as strategic partner. Work with us. We are your strategic partners, your strategic allies. Don't forget that, and think beyond India. You need to conquer the world with trade and business. Not only India, you need to conquer the world. You have the capacity to do that. Unless you do that, you will never become the superpower of the world. So,
if I might,
sorry.
I want to answer that same question because it's an important question because we are all integrally related. India has to begin to believe she is a superpower. Only when you believe in yourself, coming back to the question posed to Hanuman, who are you? Unless you understand that you are Pavanaputra, then you can never do what you're supposed to do. So that has to come first. India has to believe, and you business people have to begin to project yourself. The second one is that, as I said, I want to emphasize it. All Indians in whatever field of endeavor we have to begin to think strategic. We can't just be concerned with the short term. That is the way to ruination. So we have to begin to think strategically, coming back to your question about engineering, teaching, and enabling children. Off the coast of Guyana and Suriname, the New York, they already have, the Geological Survey of America has shown that there's at least 4 billion barrels of oil. Even Exxon last week signed an agreement in Guyana. No Indian company has come. Spain has come. But Guyana, it will come. Oil will come. The oil is in because Venezuela is to the left, one of the sweetest oil in the world in terms of its lightness. So the thing is, Guyana and Suriname will need petrochemical engineers. That is where your strategic vision come in. You link up and you do that. But the third thing is this, and I want to conclude. I don't want to take up too much time, but this is important. Every superpower in the world has to project that power, has to project it. America has to have floating crafts to project its power. You already have in every corner in the world Hindus who are there. They talk about soft power. Well, there is no soft and hard. Ultimately, all power is in this mind here.
Yes.
And India already has soft power, but has ignored it. But I'm saying if the Indian government and the bureaucrats don't want to do it, you as business people begin by connecting and begin to use that soft power to your betterment and our betterment.
Thank you. Thank you. Talking about the Prime Minister Narendra Bhai Modi ji, the World Hindu Congress has received the best wishes from him, and the message will be read tomorrow morning at the plenary session.